LIB presents Try Not to Cry Challenge by Josh Gonzales. Copyright year 2021 by Joshua De Jesus and Life is Beautiful Printing Corporation. Performed by John Vincent Hoson. Level 9. Be My Mistake. So, that's it for today? Sure. Thank you for your time, sir. It is indeed my pleasure. I smiled at the middle aged man in front of me. He was wearing a formal suit, with a smiling face yet exhausted eyes. We exchanged regards and later bid each other goodbye as he left the coffee shop we were in. As soon as he left, with a heavy sigh, I sat back and observed the whole place. The shop was full of customers, who were probably enjoying the rainy season. Some were students chilling, others were doing something on their laptop, while a majority of them were just obviously enjoying their moments together. I took out my phone and texted someone, saying I was in the coffee shop outside her office. Actually, I just had an appointment with a client earlier. I looked towards the glass wall of the shop and saw the rain pouring hard outside, while the dark sky seemed to tell me the world was going to end any minute now. It was the perfect time to just lie down on a bed the whole day and do absolutely nothing but sleep. However, the nature of my work won't allow me that luxury. I could swear, being an adult, earning a living, wasn't a piece of cake. Sleepless nights due to an overload of work would just be a normal thing. I was sipping my coffee as I tried my best to prevent my eyes from falling totally asleep when the news being reported on the coffee shop's television caught my attention. It was about students, women, and activists rallying in front of Malacanang Palace, fighting against the impending declaration of martial law after a certain part of the country was bombed by terrorists and the whole country was put under state of lawlessness last night. The activists were insisting that martial law was next to happening and it must be stopped, while officials were telling them they used the military to help the police secure the country's safety and that martial law was impossible to be declared at the moment. The country was in chaos, as shown in the news. I sipped my coffee again and heaved a heavy sigh. Abante babae! Palaban militante! As soon as I heard the rallying chant on the television, I suddenly got petrified. My eyes widened in shock, and I felt my legs shaking. I felt a sudden pain in my chest, and it felt like I was being stabbed. There were women, led by a woman, rallying, chanting. I found myself getting teary eyed. The chant reminded me of someone who used to chant that way. The woman leading the group reminded me of her as well. It reminded me of my youth, especially of my genuine love and loss. I shook my head as I tried to compose myself. However, to my horror, a song suddenly played in the shop. The thing was, it was a special song for me, as special as the stars in the dark night sky. It was the song I had dedicated to someone before, a song we both discovered and listened to. It was If You're Not the One by Daniel Bedingfield. The song started, so did my heart, breaking again into tiny little pieces. Parang ikaw tong kantan to. Kabisado ko pa, pero hindi ko na kinakanta. I said in the air. It had been ages, but her memory still had an impact on me. With just one song, it felt like I was being murdered again. A decade had passed, yet it still stung the same way. Her memories, I guess, will forever hurt the same way. We were classmates in primary school. I was the valedictorian. She was the salutatorian. In high school, we were in a really tooth and nail academic competition. I ended up being the batch salutatorian while she was the valedictorian. In college, we got admitted to the same university, took the same course, and we were blockmates. Destiny, people might think. But to me, it was ill fate. We had known each other for ages, but we never talked personally. I didn't know. Maybe we saw each other as fierce competitors. I had no idea at all. We weren't close. We never socialized. However, weird things happened in college. I thought she'd strive harder to maintain her spot as I was eager to win back my academic title. But as time passed, I saw her losing interest in her studies. She frequently got late coming to class and sometimes did not attend at all. She missed some activities, reporting, and even quizzes. What I found alarming was when I bumped into her mom once in a bookstore. She thought her daughter was attending her classes and was soon to be on the dean's list. I had thought she was just dealing with some family issues, but it turned out she wasn't. The dean's list came out and she wasn't in it. I was confused. I never read any kind of disappointment on her face, as if she was not interested in that anymore. Her grades dropped, and the way people treated her changed too. They never bullied her, but she had this strong personality one shouldn't mess with. However, they looked down on her, treating her as if she was an outcast, someone who only got retained in school because of her parents' power and relation to the school officials, instead of being dropped out of school due to grade issues. I got interested in her, in anything related to her and the real reason why she lost interest in her studies, when she used to be so passionate about it. Weird, but I became her stalker. Whenever she was in class, I would observe every move she made. I would look and stare at her when her professor was explaining something and when she was reciting. I became an observant, trying to read every expression she made, trying to read what was on her mind. But I soon found out she was a mystery that was too tough to unravel, which triggered my curiosity more. Outside of our classes, I would observe her still. Where did she like to rest? What were her favorite places she went to? What canteen did she prefer to eat? And did she have school friends? Sadly, I never saw her talking to anyone. Sometimes, she'd go to the library and just sleep. And other times, on the school rooftop, chilling. But most of the time, she would leave the campus and never come back for her next class. Until one day, I found out why. It was a usual school day. However, we were dismissed an hour earlier than usual. I was in the corridor waiting for her to come out of the classroom, and when she did, I acted like I didn't know about the early dismissal, since I went out during the class to get the registrar's signature for our class out of school activity. When our eyes met, bravery aroused inside me. I cleared my throat. Where are you going? We still have class, I said calmly, as if I wasn't panicking inside. She stopped and looked directly into my eyes. We've been dismissed early, she said nonchalantly and walked away. I felt my roots were about to disown me, but I just succeeded. Finally, we had an interaction. Finally, she looked into my eyes. I didn't know why I felt so ecstatic, but I was. I felt like the whole zoo inside me was raging and my heart was about to come out. An idea popped out suddenly. That's right, I said in my head. I have to find out where she normally goes after class. I knew it was none of my business, but I just couldn't help but be curious. As I planned, I followed her. It was kind of scary, but I was thrilled. She was walking, and so was I behind her, trying my very best to act normal. She turned left, and when I turned left as well, to my horror, she disappeared. But what I saw brought me confusion. What I saw were people wearing the same black shirt with the printed text, Never Again. They were holding placards and had speakers and microphones. I recognized some of the groups because I had seen them on national television. They were groups that were rallying for their rights and other people's rights they had perceived as oppressive. But why would she be here? I asked myself. And before I could ever come up with an answer, someone grabbed my hand and later pinned me against an isolated building wall. It's me, someone said. I felt my heart skip a beat when her hazel brown eyes met mine, in which her soul could be seen. You've been following me around for months. I bet you're curious about what's happening to me. Now, you've got the answer. My mind was in absolute confusion as I tried to grasp what she was saying. Why are you here? It was the question that first came out of my mouth. I mean, uh, I'm losing my mind, I frustratingly said. I am a part of them, she said proudly. I'm an activist. My eyes widened. But your dad works in the government. Does he know? He doesn't have to know, she answered and looked sharply into my eyes. Unless you tell them. It's okay. I can handle it. I'm not that kind of person, I said in defense. If you're not that kind of person, then why are you meddling with my life? That shut me up. Why are you following me? I almost choked as I gulped. I couldn't think of anything to say. Maybe because I was just curious? I was just interested? Uh, but why would I be interested? Maybe, maybe you like me? My eyes widened in amazement. You can't answer? Maybe you do. I do, I answered. I just found myself interested in you. Maybe I do like you. I don't know. She laughed. I was expecting you to deny it, but you just did the opposite. But hey, you can shrug off your romantic feelings for me. I'm not someone who should settle for love. I'm someone who will devote her life for the good of the country, protect it at all costs. So you may go now, she said. It's up to you if you'll expose me or not. Have your will. And then she walked away, leaving me puzzled. Protect it at all costs? I yelled at her, which made her stop walking. Even if it will cost you your parents' trust? Your academic standing? Your life? She looked back at me with eyes full of determination. Want to know a secret? She asked. I stopped exerting effort in school because I realized the country doesn't need too many professionals. We have loads of them. What our country needs is someone who has the genuine heart to fight for its sovereignty and rights. Someone who has the heart and not just the title. I gulped. People who have high educational background tend to abuse the power they have. They have the power to change the world, but they let the world change them into people who overpower the weak and exploit the poor. Sometimes, titles produce self entitled clever devils who have their eyes only for themselves, but not for their country. She smiled bitterly. That's why I'm slowly detaching myself from titles. That's why I'm living my life now. And once you get awakened by how much our country needs us, it is a sin to keep a blind eye. We are bombarded by people with power and intelligence, but have a scarcity of people with genuine hearts. And you think that you can be the one who can change the world? I asked. I'm not, solely. But I'll take part in it, and that's what the world needs. Someone who has the bravery to take risks, not just someone who will watch the latter benefit. She walked away, and in a matter of seconds, she disappeared from my sight. I gasped for air, and my brain was about to burst out. I was expecting she had a boyfriend, was taking illegal drugs, or clubbing, but not this one. That was the day I contemplated everything. And that was the day I understood her and, deep within me, admired and adored her. The next day, we had no classes. I didn't know, but I found myself at the place where they usually orient and organize themselves before they proceed to the actual rally. She saw me. She looked puzzled, literally bewildered when she saw me approaching her. What are you doing here? She asked, baffled. I'm joining your campaign, I answered, smiling. You? She said in a loud voice, still looking confused. Why? I saw the need for someone who has a genuine heart. My country needs me. Who am I to refuse? Do your parents know about this? She asked in a concerned voice. They don't have to know, I said, unless you'll tell them. It's okay, I will be able to handle it, I said jokingly, imitating what she had said before. She laughed. You're good. That day, I officially expressed being a part of a rally. And honestly, it felt so good. We were chanting later and debating. It was not as bad as I thought. We were together all day, and I just couldn't help myself but look at her and feel so proud of her. She led the group. She led the chant. And when the counter group approached, she was good at giving rational response and argument. She used her intelligence for something beneficial. I couldn't help myself but to just smile while looking at her. That was the time I found my heart being captured by someone for the very first time. That was the time I found myself liking her and, eventually, loving her, with no intention at all. Months passed and we became really close. We were almost together every day. We spent all our free time together. Sometimes I'd join her organizing her rally group. Sometimes she'd help me with my paperwork in our school's publication office. People had started to take notice, but I simply shrugged them off. During classes, I saw her reciting and always leaving everyone in complete awe, with her always on point answers. She aced the exams with ease and frequently topped every quiz we had. People thought she might even surpass my grades. Eventually, she almost did. She got really good marks, which were way better than her previous record. That made me think sometimes that people didn't need anyone to flatter them, as it sometimes gave them pressure. What they needed was someone who can lend them a helping hand and be an ear, not to judge, but to help them cope with their conflicts in life. Another thing I noticed was that the longer the time we spent together, the deeper my feelings for her became. As a matter of fact, we were officially together last week. I just thought, I said while we were walking outside our school. We have been together for months, but you always call me by my name. We do not have a sort of nicknames for each other. I mean, that's unnecessary, but I bet we have to. She stopped biting into her burger and looked at me. Nicknames? She asked, perplexed. I nodded. Yes, like Love, Bebiko, Honey Bunch, Sugar Plump. She cringed. Stop it! Pimpy Umpy Umpkin, you're my sweetie pie, you're my cupcake. Stop it! She said as she cringed to the fullest. You're cringeworthy. Nicknames for what? It's only for couples. Aren't we a couple? I asked, shocked. That almost choked her. What? Aren't we? I asked. We have been together for months, but you don't know? You're not even courting me, she insisted. I do, I answered back. Can't you feel it? You never asked me. I thought if I'll ask you, you'll say no, so I just kept it silent, but I made sure it can be felt. Can't you feel it? I asked. Aren't we a couple? We are, right? She simply looked at me. What if we aren't? Then I'll court you again, again and again, until you say we are. I'm an activist. Is that okay with you? Then let's rally and hold our placards together. I won't mind, I said and formed my fist as if it was a microphone. Abante, babae, palaban, militante. She laughed as I imitated her usual chant. I smiled. So, are we? She looked thoroughly into my eyes, acting like she was contemplating. If not, then I'm officially asking for your heart now, I said, looking deeply into her magnetic eyes. In this world full of perfectionists, be my mistake. She smiled weakly. I'm your sweet mistake you'll soon regret you committed. Before I could answer back, she inched the gap between us, and in an instant, I felt the whole surrounding stand still, and her moves seemed like in a slow motion. In the blink of an eye, our lips touched, like an eclipse. She gave me a smack on my lips that caught me off guard. She smiled, teasing me. I got petrified for a moment. She just kissed me. It felt like my chest had been bruised since my heart couldn't stop beating aggressively. It's as if it would burst out any time. To put it simply, we became officially together that night. We did what couples did, and that was the best thing that ever happened to me. And she, of course, was the best thing that I ever had. Everything went well until some news came out. The government revealed the top 18 schools associated with a plan to destabilize the government and had connections with the communist groups, creating chaos in the country. To my surprise, our school was included in the list. It was a hot topic in school, and everyone was being investigated. I asked her directly if she was a part of it, but she always denied it all the time. She became agitated and irritated. It seemed like she was back to her shell, and whenever I opened up the topic, she'd either refuse to talk or we'll fight about it in the whole day. She kept on denying it, but her actions kept on confirming it. How can I help and protect you if you won't tell me? I reasoned out with her because seriously, she had changed. One Monday morning, she gave me a flash drive and requested something I won't forget. The flash drive only has one file in it. It contains an article. You're a part of the school publication, right? Love, please do me a favor. Next week, the school will publish a new paper. It has to be there. It has to be a part of the new paper. I immediately checked the article in my laptop, and it alarmed me. It contained information and statements that may be factual, but seemed alarming enough to provoke heated discussions. It was about the current state of the country, of the government, and of terrorism. We argued again, telling her I couldn't do what she wanted me to do. She told me I didn't have to put my name on the byline. I just had to create ways on how it could be published without naming who wrote it. We argued, we fought, but I found myself heeding her request in the end, because she assured me it will be the answer to the chaos that was happening to the country. As I expected, the resulting reception was unprecedented. It became an issue to the school and even broadcasted on national television. The school faced several controversies, and people who belonged to the school publication were investigated. Nobody admitted anything. Of course, even I strongly denied knowledge about it. We talked about it, and she simply thanked me, telling me to just wait and see how it would resolve the chaos. The next morning, I saw the news that loads of students had suddenly become a part of the activist group. Groups had been organized all over the country to conduct a massive protest, and the article served as the trigger. We fought about it, of course, and she insisted it was the right thing to do. But that's what we need, triggering a factor, a thing that will awaken their nationalism, she reasoned out. Not in the way they'll use force, I answered in frustration. Punishing violence with violence is the only way to eradicate it. My eyes grew wild. Are you in support of terrorism? I'm not. But can't you see it? She said. All the things happening now are the only way to eliminate the cancer of society. It's risky. Aren't you scared of what would happen to you? As long as it's for the country, I have nothing to fear. Wow, I uttered bitterly. How can you say that? You don't even seem to consider my feelings anymore. What do you think I would feel if something bad happened to you? After saying that and seeing guilt in her eyes, I walked away. Just as I expected it, I got caught. When we were being investigated, they found a flash drive among my belongings. They tried to make me admit it, but despite their threats that I might receive an expulsion or a life in jail if I didn't admit, I still denied any knowledge about it. The news spread like wildfire in school, and in no time at all, I was labeled as the one who had the connection with terrorists, and most probably the reason why our school was included in the list of schools associated with terrorist groups. They said it was unquestionable. I had the wealth, the brains, and, among all the people in the school publication, I had the power to do such a thing. In short, I was trapped. She knew about it, of course. Like what had been happening to us lately? We fought about it. She wanted to reveal herself, to expose herself, so she would save me. I told her it was better if I bore the burden of all the consequences alone, as I could endure them all. But she insisted it was her fault, and it was wrong if I would be the one to suffer for the things she did. I don't care, she shouted, crying. It's my fault. I should be the one carrying the blame. I should be the one who must be expelled. You have nothing to do with it, but you are suffering because of me. I don't care as well, I said as I wiped her tears away. I don't mind suffering, as long as it is for you. The only thing you could do to be worthy of it is to do what's right. If you'll expose yourself, you'll be punished. Your organization will be exposed, and a lot of people will suffer. Your plans will amount to nothing. It will create more mess. I gulped. But if it's me, it will just be me, I continued. No one will ever suffer. You told me what our country needs is someone who has the bravery to take risks, and not just someone who would watch from the side and later benefit, right? Then that's me. I'm willing to be the sacrificial lamb. Just promise me one thing, my love. What is it? She asked amidst her tears. I smiled weakly. Be safe. After we talked that day, we never talked again. I was being investigated. So, for the meantime, I stopped any social interaction with her because people might think she had connections with me and might be investigated and might be caught. Weeks passed, and I had to admit I missed her. I miss her voice, her skin, her touch, her mind. When we saw each other on campus, we only had eye contact. Even with texting, we stopped because my phone would sometimes be confiscated by my mom. Days later, the number of protesting students increased. Some school officials resigned from their positions after evidence of them being a part of the oppression and plunder was revealed. Things were getting more chaotic, but at least there was some progress. Then one day, it was announced that I was being kicked out of the school after photos of me joining the rallies were presented in the office. For the last time, I denied the allegations despite the evidence. My mom got mad and she said the school officials didn't have to kick me out, and she will voluntarily transfer me to another school. Again, the news spread in school like wildfire, and for the first time, I was treated like an outcast. I went to the canteen and bought food. I tried to make my last day in this school memorable and tried to do my usual school routine, but people's eyes were like knives that kept stabbing me. I was hurt. While eating, someone grabbed my bottled drink and walked away. I immediately stood up and shouted, Hey! She looked back. My heart immediately recognized her, and I bet her heart answered my call. What are you doing? I said, looking directly into her eyes, giving the warning that she shouldn't talk to me yet, as I was still being investigated. But I knew, it saw in my eyes how much I missed her. I bet it was written all over my face. She smiled. President, I have a question. People were now looking at us. What? I coldly answered, trying to look as if we were not close to each other, so people won't be suspicious of her. Have you ever experienced cutting class? I got puzzled. What are you talking about? President, she said and smiled. Be my mistake. And before I could speak, she grabbed my hand. In an instant, we were running away. I knew that wasn't right, but I couldn't help myself but to just let her take me anywhere, as all aspects of me missed her. We went anywhere. We went outside the school and lived as if we had no problems. We ate street food, danced in the middle of the street. We sang in karaoke rooms in the nearby mall. We pet stray dogs and cats, and we watched the sunset together. Take a photo of me and the sunset, she said, when we were sitting by the seaside watching the sun setting. Hearing that, I took out my phone and braced myself to take a shot. 3, 2, 1. I counted instead of saying the usual say cheese. I said, I love you. I took the shot. She smiled in the photograph. After hearing what I said, it was the best smile she ever had compared to all of her photos. Why do you like the sunset so much? I asked her. She smiled. Because it shows that there's still beauty, even in goodbyes. Before I could mentally process what she said, she took my hand, and we went back to the school to get our things. Instead of going home, we went to the school rooftop and lay down as we stargazed. Look at the stars, she said. Aren't they reflections of us, distant and dying? They shine, I said, but they have already died billions of years ago, and trillion years late to be saved. You're being poetic, she said. I smiled. Billions of stars above us, but I'd still stare at the brightest star I possess. I'd rather stare at you. She smiled weakly. You know, we're both like Van Gogh. Sometimes we're like this The Starry Night masterpiece. But most of the time, we are metaphors of a suicide note, sad and tragic. I looked at her. She was teary eyed. I love you, I said. I love you more, she replied. I love you till infinity, I answered back. But infinity can't go negative, she complained. Then, I'll love you even on the negative sides of our relationship. We laughed. What if I suddenly disappear for no reason at all? What will you do? She asked. I don't know, I answered. I might lose my mind. Just thinking of it is enough to kill me. But in case it happens, I'll drop everything and will seek you out. Wherever you might be, I'll be looking for you. Her smile was faint. When you told me you'll be the mistake I'll later regret committing, that's where you're wrong, I said, and pinched her nose. You're the mistake I'll never get tired of committing, over and over again. Let's see, she said, looking deeply into my eyes. I have a question again, she said. What is it? What if you could turn back the time? Would you still like to meet me? The question alarmed me, so I faced her. Well, what's with a question? She smiled. Just a random question. After seeing there was nothing wrong in her expression, I heaved a sigh. I don't know what will happen, but if I could turn back the time, I'd definitely fall for you again, I said. And if you're a mistake I'll learn from, I don't want to learn anymore. Can I kiss you? That's not something to be asked. She inched the gap between our faces, and in the blink of an eye, our lips met. It was magical, like an eclipse. We were standing on the same ground, breathing the same air, kissing under the same sky and stars. It felt so unreal. We talked about everything: conspiracies, politics, childhood, even our future. We planned it. We slept together, with her on my chest and with the moon as our guardian. The next morning, I woke up alone. She wasn't there. I looked for her, but she probably went home. There must have been an emergency reason. I went down from the school rooftop, and what I saw left me bewildered. There were military and police personnel interrogating the school officials about someone. When I heard whom they were looking for, I felt a sudden pain in my chest. They were looking for her. To my horror, I found out that she admitted that she was the owner of the flash drive, not me. She also admitted that she had connections to the communist groups. She admitted her role in the protest. She admitted to everything, but she was nowhere to be found. I went to her house, but no one was there. Minutes later, I found out her dad was being arrested for being a part of the plan to destabilize the government. She incriminated even her dad. I was going insane. I tried calling her up, but she couldn't be reached until I noticed the recording on my phone, which she probably recorded while I was asleep. Since the first time we were together, I've already known to myself that it will sting when the time comes, that I have to let go of your hand. When the time comes that I have to turn my back and walk away. I know I shouldn't fall for anyone. I made it clear to myself that romance isn't for me. But for you, I made an exception. I fell in love with you with no script, no intention at all, and now the feelings just won't go away. It's as if now, within me, you're in my system already. Seeing how precious you are, it always makes me think that I can't have you with me forever. I'm mentally unstable. I caused things I never meant to do, and you always ended up crying. Every day, I convince myself that I have to let you go. And even at this moment that I'm recording this, I'm still trying to convince myself. Every time I had the courage to do so, your smile would easily melt me. Every time I look at your eyes, I always ask myself, how can I let go of the best thing that ever happened to me? And how can I convince myself it's the time to walk away? But today, I can't make it any longer. I want you to live a normal life, a life that I can't ever provide. I want you to be safe and happy. That's why I'm leaving you. You deserve better. And I can't be better. Maybe you're someone else's blessings I have just been snatching. Though it murders me, I'm rooting for your happiness, even if it no longer includes me. Last night, you told me if I disappeared, you'll look for me, right? Don't do that. Never do that. Once you hear this, I'm long gone and I won't be found. If you could turn back the time, snob me. Don't come near me. Don't ever try to meet with me. Don't look at my eyes. Don't talk to me. Never be on the same path I am walking on. Don't eat in the same place I am eating. Never initiate a talk. Don't let our paths cross. Only by that, we can stop an impending lethal pain. Only by that, we can stop an ill fated love. And only by that, you can stop breaking an already broken soul. Save yourself. Act like you never knew me. Don't look in my eyes. Forget me. But if destiny allows us to meet again, it'll happen. Fuck. Can I erase all the things I have said? Can I say I never meant any of them? And now I'm breaking down while recording this because I don't want to do this. But this is the right thing to do to save you from me. I want to hold your hand, kiss you, and run away with you. But I have to stand firm. My love, let's not break up, but let's part ways. Breaking up means breaking things up, cutting all ties, erasing memories, eradicating feelings, deleting anything that could remind us of each other, and pretending as if we never really happened. But parting ways is different. We're just separating, taking different paths, but the knots are still tied. We're not together, but you always have my heart wherever you may go. No matter how far you are, your soul is still connected with mine. So let's not break up, so we can bounce back. Let's part ways so we can meet again. For now, I'm letting you go. But don't worry, if I die and become ashes, I'll be reformed in the next lifetime. And wherever you are, I will find you, and I'll make sure we're not going to be as tragic as we are now. Live your life and be safe. Always. For one last time, my sweet mistake. I love you. I love you. Forever. Forever and always. It felt like I was being murdered. I searched for her everywhere. I felt like a part of me was missing. Like it died along with her disappearance. Until I was told by one of her friends in her rally group that she had joined a communist group and was hiding in one of the isolated mountains in the country. As soon as I got the information, I went there. But on my way, it was announced on the radio of the car that the communist group had an interaction with the military, which escalated into a bloody war. When the communists felt they had no chance of winning, they bombed themselves to save their pride. That was the day I felt my heart died, along with her passing. I got very depressed. I lost interest in everything. I barely ate. I cried myself to sleep. I dropped out of school. I was devastated. It felt like my soul had died along with her. Weeks later, I got notified by her friends that she was found alive. I was stupefied, ecstatic, yet hurting still. until I was told by her friend that she didn't want to come back to her normal life. She was no longer her old self. She didn't want to meet with me, talk to me, or to even see me. She didn't want to come back to me. I blinked as I tried myself not to cry again. It had been 10 years, but the pain just couldn't go away. It was as if it had been written on my skin and marinated deep within my bones. The song was still playing. It was now in the chorus part. I sipped my coffee once again and almost spewed it out when someone entered the shop. My jaw dropped. My eyes grew wild and my heart was fluttering inside. I felt an extreme chest pain inside me. I pinched myself to see if I was just seeing a delusion of you. But no, you were there, standing at the corner as you ordered your food. You looked so gorgeous, so sophisticated. You looked so professional. You had matured, but you were the same woman who broke my heart. Yet, I still felt the same feeling I felt when we first met 10 years ago. Should I leave? Should I hide? But why would I? Should I show myself to her? No, no. My heart hurt so good, and butterflies had suddenly gone chaotic inside me. It had been a decade since we last saw each other, but seeing you now, I was in vagueness again. You started looking for a seat. I looked around and saw there was no available seat in the shop, except the seat in front of me. You looked like you were panicking, but then our eyes met, and no one between us blinked, as if our eyes had been glued to each other. I will be lying if I won't admit that it made an impact on me. My heart had been waving so wild, beating so fast. It screamed your name. It screamed how much it missed you. You were about to turn your back when you realized it was me, and I didn't know why I called your name. You stopped, and you were about to walk away, so I called your name again. You looked at me. I smiled. It seemed you were being reluctant. I smiled. Your eyes widened. You smiled also. I waved and pointed at the seat across from me at my table. It seemed you were petrified for a second, but finally, you decided to come to me. The moment you were walking towards me, holding a tray, with our song playing in the background, I couldn't take my eyes off you. I couldn't help myself but smile. It was like you were in a slow motion movie. It felt like the song had brought me back to our past, 10 years ago, when we were in college. I didn't know, but your memories never failed to make me feel two things: love and pain. Hi, you said, once you reached my table. Hello, I responded. Then you started eating without looking at me. You were looking down, looking left, looking right, but not looking at me. I was just smiling at you the whole time. I didn't know if it was because of the song, but what I was seeing right now was a college version of us, of you. Damn, I was still in love with you. You caught me looking at you. Why are you looking at me that way? You asked awkwardly. But I just smiled wider. I don't know. I just can't help myself but stare at you like what I used to do. I bet it made you uncomfortable. Our song had stopped and a couple of songs had been played after it, but we were still not talking to each other. So I decided to break the ice. But then we both said, "How are you?" "I'm fine." And "How about you?" in unison. We both laughed. By that, we seemed comfortable with each other again. We talked about what she had been through and what we were now. As I looked at you, you were still you. You had matured physically, but you were still you. It was fine until Out of My League by Stephen Speaks played. It was one of the songs I used to sing when you were sad. It silenced us both. We looked at the glass wall and the rain was still pouring hard outside. I spoke while still looking at the glass wall. Why didn't you contact me? You looked into my eyes. You didn't know how much I longed for you, how much I missed you, how much tears I shed thinking of you. I almost killed myself. I bit my lower lip to stop myself from crying. I told you about my side, how depressed I had been, how much hurt I suffered when I was chasing you, and how many times you pushed me away. I even told you how many accounts I made just to be updated on what was happening to you. But you had been blocking me. You changed your phone number, so I couldn't call you anymore. Even your email account I had been sending letters to, you deleted them. I totally lost myself finding you. I lost myself trying to chase you. I was broken. You knew I was broken, but you broke me even more. I saw regret in your face. You then looked at me. Sorry, you said. I was a mess. My name was already associated with the communist groups. I surrendered my dad, and my relatives were very mad at me. My friends in rally groups abandoned me. I created chaos in our school. I couldn't afford to drag you into my mess. I didn't want you to be a mess because of me. I'm sorry. I told you I can handle it, didn't I? How long are you going to endure them? Until the world takes my last breath. Your tears fell. I did look for you again. After years of being in a communist group, I was officially freed. I started a new life. I started to rebuild myself. I studied while I was working. You bit your lip. Until I became stable and sought out for you as well. But at that time, I saw how successful you had become. You were already a part of a law firm. You were already a lawyer. You were living your life. You looked so happy. Who was I to ruin you again? You had moved on. Who was I to bring back the pain? I smiled bitterly. But I had never been happy ever since you left me. I always cried myself to sleep. I got so depressed. You were the first one in my mind the moment I wake up, and the last person in my head before I go to sleep. I loved you, but you ruined me. We were both suddenly speechless. But then you looked at me once again, straight into my eyes. I saw how much pain you had been carrying. You cleared your throat. What you said rendered me speechless. Can we make it again this time? You asked. I don't care if my roots will disown me. I just don't want to lose you again. We are fine now. We are already professionals. We have matured. So maybe this time we can give it a shot? Maybe we can give each other a chance. Maybe we can make it again? I bit my lower lip. Please, you said, begging me as tears were now flowing like a river from your eyes. It's not that easy, I answered. You grabbed my hand, and before you could speak, you saw the ring on it. Your eyes went wild. It rendered you speechless as well. Look, I said, I love you. I still do, but everything has changed. I found someone I love more than I love you. I'm sorry, but I thought you'll never come back. Besides, you can't expect someone to wait for you all the time after leaving them injured and bleeding just because you know they love you. Sorry, I love you still, but I'm already married. Tears slowly escaped from your eyes. You couldn't speak. I knew you were in pain, but I couldn't do anything about it. Can I make a request? You said. Your voice cracked. Sure. About? Even if you are married now, please never forget me. I will never forget you. Please never unlove me. I will still love you even if you're no longer mine. I will, I assured you. Never forget all the things we did. And in case everyone forgets me, I want you to still remember me. I will, I said firmly. I got a text from my wife. I replied to my text to her earlier that I was in the coffee shop outside her office. She told me she was coming over. I have to go, I said and stood up. Sure, you replied. The moment I walked past at you, I stopped and looked back. Can I wipe your tears off like I used to do before? Smiling while crying, you nodded. So I did. I have a question, I asked. What? You said, trying to compose yourself. What if you can turn back the time? Would you still like to meet me? I asked. You were puzzled. But then you let out a weak smile when you recognized the question. It was the question you asked me the last time we were together, one night in the school rooftop. If I could turn back the time, you said. My heart broke when I heard your voice crack. Even if a lethal sadness awaits me, I'll meet you and won't hesitate to fall for you again. I won't hesitate to be your mistake again. But I wish I could really go back to that time when you were still mine and you wanted me the most. Tears flowed from your eyes, same on mine. Do me a favor, I said. Be safe. You cried as you recognized my usual reminder for you to always be safe. I was shy to always say, I love you. That is why it was my way of saying, I love you before. I'll go now. But before I could go away, you uttered something that my heart had been longing for in 10 straight years. I love you for one last time. I looked back at you and smiled as I got teary eyed once again. I love you more in infinity, even with the negatives, for one last time. The moment I stepped out of the shop, I saw my wife carrying my 3-year-old son with an umbrella. Why did you come here? I asked. You should have waited for me in your office. And why are you carrying this fart machine? I asked as I pinched my son's cheek. I thought he's with your mom. Mom dropped him off earlier. Why did you park your car here? I had a meeting with a client. Let's go? We'll go ahead. We are fully drenched from the rain, she said with a smile as she chased my son. As I looked at my wife and my son running happily, it made me smile and immediately think of you. Maybe we didn't work out because we were too young back then. And maybe we were not really destined to be together. That was why, no matter how much we tried, no matter how much we fought, we were bound to break up as if we were not meant to each other. Sometimes, the environment was also a factor. Like us, we found love amidst national chaos. But the thing is, we had different priorities. My priority was to love you, but your priority was to serve the country. There are people whom you will meet along the way that would be part of your story and would be the center of some of your chapters, but not the person you'll be with in the ending. We sometimes think they are our entire book, but in reality, they are just a single page of it. If your chapter ends tragically, let it be. Stop rereading it so you can now turn to the next chapter of your life. Love stories don't need to be a sequel every time. If it ends tragically, let it be. Sometimes, the person we want most is the person we are best without. And that's that. That's life. And just because you love each other, that doesn't mean you'll end up together. You can still love each other without being with each other, without marrying each other, and without owning each other. I looked back at you and my heart hurt when I saw you. You were looking at me. You probably saw how happy I was with my family. You were looking at me while tears were flowing from your eyes. This was what we promised to each other, to be professionals and have a family with a son as the eldest child. We planned how many children we will have and their age gaps. We planned that we'll work in the same office, so I could build my fence high against those who will make a move on you. It is funny, the dreams and future we planned. We are now fulfilling them with someone else. Tragic, but we are just individuals who share the same history, but not people who are destined to be together. I smiled at you as my eyes started getting teary and waved goodbye. You smiled and waved back, faking a smile as tears were flowing from your eyes. I love you, you mouthed. Goodbye, I responded.